Do you have your mics on? Jim, is your mic? Okay, thank you. Calling the Merit System Commission to order. It is June 13th, 2024. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
So approved. The rule change. I'm sorry. Oh, you want to, thank you, Jim.
Mr. Kempe?
Here.
Mr. Rodehaver?
Here.
Mrs. Wasty?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, first item of business is the MSC rule change. This is our second reading, and I am reading it now. Section 5, Police Patrol Officer Lateral Entry Criteria. Item B, certified as a law enforcement officer by the Ohio Peace Officers Training Commission or substantially similar, an equivalent police training program and/or certification from another state or federal agency, and be currently with all applicable continuing education requirements. That concludes our second reading.
Can we vote for adoption?
Yes, we can.
I move that the rule change be adopted as read.
Second?
Mr. Kempe?
Yes.
Mr. Rodehaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Wasty?
Yes. Entry-level police officer advertisement. I was talking to Amy about this. We do not have anything concerning the rule change yet, so we have to go as it is originally submitted, which means they'll do the submitting of the application, then the testing. Are we going to test in-house?
NTN, yeah. I've already
NTN?
set that up with NTN. They're ready to go. I've got it posted for June 18th
Okay,
because Aaron is on vacation this week and he won't be back until Monday, and I wanted to make sure that it got posted at the correct time, given an opportunity to get it posted correctly. So posted Tuesday the 18th and would close on July 8th, which is also it might be the Monday. I did have a question because our next meeting would be July 4th. If we were able to push that to the 11th, then this item could be on to certify this list on the 11th. It would be ready to go then.
what are your thoughts? Our thoughts are there.
Speaking of thoughts,
Oh, man. Trouble. Start with the Star Spangled Banner.
new year, new song, love it.
Looking sharp. Hang on.
What would you like to discuss?
Well, we can't do the rule change. We don't have all the paperwork. So,
For entry level, is that what we're,
no, lateral,
lateral, okay.
no, or entry level. Yes,
What-
entry level.
The rule change for that, we were kicking around just brainstorming some ideas.
Okay,
We didn't really have anything definite. I think Deputy Chief Neubauer kind of introduced some ideas, and we weren't sure what we really wanted to do. The trend right now is, as you know, is we're not getting the 200 people or even 20, right? We're getting 3. How competitive is a written exam? I think there needs to be a written exam. How competitive is it if there's only 1 or 2 or 3 people taking it? We're not even getting a list of 10. So we were kind of kicking around the idea of maybe making the board interview part of the application process. Wouldn't require a rule change. It's just part, because we determine what the application process is, you do. So that way we could kind of have a running list, constant running list. So when we go to a job fair, so like Sinclair Police Academy just started last week. We'll go and talk to them next week. And before we can get this entry-level process finished, there will be a big chunk of them that already have offers from other places. And it's just the fact that they've moved their processes around to a point where they can streamline people through and give them conditional offers quicker. And we're just trying to brainstorm of how we can do that also.
That's why we want Martina's input, because according to our rules, we have to certify the test before they can be released.
So what we were thinking is we make the background, we make an application, a board interview, and start their background, and then have them take a written test.
So you're basically, instead of doing the background test, or the test, background test, then the interview, you're wanting to do background check, interview, then the test.
Yeah, the background check and interview weeds out the vast majority of people, so we're not wasting our time. There's some agencies now that are having people complete applications and giving them a conditional offer immediately. Now, they're still having to take a test, written test. They're still having to go through the background check. They still have to do a psych and the polygraphs, interviews with the chief, but they are getting conditional offers almost immediately before any of that takes place. And that gets them on the hook, right? So that at least they're starting the process and they're neglecting looking at other jobs. So kid in the academy gets a conditional offer, fills out an application, takes a test, gets a conditional offer. He stops looking for other jobs because he knows if he is successful, he's got a job lined up, as opposed to someone who does the shotgun method and applies at 8 places and then leverages those places against each other. Well, what does this place have? This place has better looking cruisers. This place has a cool kid schedule where I get 4 days off a week. This place has better benefits. This place has 25 cents an hour more, and that's what's kind of happening now. So I agree. I think we need Martina's input, but we're kind of trying to just brainstorm a way to streamline the process without muddying up the waters. If you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I'm just concerned.
Yeah.
It's going against what our rules actually say. I would like to say yes, but I can't, even though we're switching it around.
I think the issue when Chief Neubauer presented it seemed like you wanted to do away with the written testing and just do interview.
Yeah, so for a while, we were kicking around the idea of, because our panel interview, our board interview, which is one of the first steps, it is a formal process. It has a scoring system. People get scored on it, and those scores are based on knowledge, skills, abilities, how they speak, their communication skills, how they presented during the interview, what they anticipate the job being, kind of thing, and that we score them. There is a score sheet, and it is not a written test, but it is a test. So we were kind of kicking around the idea of, well, could that be the competitive portion? Because so we get a list of, from you certify the list, we get, say, 10 names. They're ranked 1 through 10. When they leave the board interview, they're re-ranked, because we know some of those people will never be police officers, right? There's people that take tests very well and might be in the 1 or 2 spot, but can't form a logical, reasonable sentence. We've had people in the board interview before pound their head on the desk, rock back and forth, people with a master's degree, rock back and forth, not able to answer questions, and those people will never be police officers. So that was one of the ways that we were trying to, can the board interview be a competitive exam? I have everything on my desk. Sorry, I just walked in the door. I have everything on my desk, an example of our scoring method, scoring system, scoring sheets. It's not written. Could there be a written component to that board interview? Yeah, there's places that make them write an essay. Right? Why do you want to be a Marine police officer? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? We could score that. We could call that part of the written exam. But it is a formal, we use a formal process. If we don't use a formal scoring method, then we could be liable for excluding somebody, right? That person that rocked back and forth and pounded their head, the master's degree person with the rock back and forth and pounded their head on the desk, we would have to have, we have a formal reason why to exclude them. Hey, man, they didn't have any kind of officer presence, they didn't have any kind of communication skills, they didn't answer questions appropriately, other than, didn't like them, so we excluded them. We have a formal process. It is a scored formal process. So we were just kind of, I think he was, and maybe he didn't express what we were kind of trying to accomplish, or not that we're trying to go around the rules or make new rules, but if we could somehow, that would quicken our process. We would get them on the hook in the process faster, making a conditional offer. That was just an idea, though.
So you're not doing away with any written testing, you're just rearranging the way that it's done. So you're doing, like I said, you're doing the verbal first, and the background checks, and as long as they get through background checks and the verbal, then you move them through to testing, but they have a conditional offer as long as they can pass the NTN test or whatever test that you or the board provides for them.
The way, yeah, so we could come up with our own in-house test, and we could, in fact, do it online, because Aaron does the online thing now. We could give them something online, even if they're not in the area. I think the NTN test gives us a bigger pool, but a lot of the kids aren't using NTN for some reason now, even though they know it gives them a larger selection of departments. For some reason, they're not using it. I don't know why.
So we're not trying to circumvent the testing, we're rearranging the manner in which it's done.
I would say that.
At what point would MSC certify a list?
So I guess my question would be, do you want to certify everybody who we know initially is never going to be a police officer, or is that a waste of time for you? So do you want to certify the entire applicant pool, or the people that we think during the application initial background testing portion that will be successful candidates?
See, this is the other thing. When a list is made, we're only supposed to release the top 10, or 11 or 12, depending on how officers. How do we know if you've filled out an application and you give us a list of all the applicants? Is it the first one who submits, and the 10th is the 10th person to submit, or,
We would still use Amy and Aaron for the initial application process to gather that information, or we would at least when we're creating these. So I started mentioning earlier, we go to a job fair, and a lot of departments have a clipboard. Hey, put your name and email address down. We will call you in the next couple of weeks, and they call that like an interest list. And it's kind of an ongoing application process. And as soon as they get back to the PD, they fire off emails to those kids, those people, and they start the application process. And she could be involved in something like that, wrangling, corralling the cats, kind of, so to speak.
The way it's set up now, any time an application is posted, it's time-stamped, it's dated, it's all that right now as it is, yeah.
Currently, our process includes a number of steps, the first of which involves non-discretionary actions. The applicant decides they wish to apply, they follow the steps, and they make their name onto the list. Now, at that point, they may go through various testing, but they make it onto a list which, at that point, there's no discretion on anybody's part. It's a completely open. Is there any change to that? That is to say, the first time we see a candidate's name, have they gone through any discretionary selection process under the proposed system? Have they been selected in any way other than their self-selection to apply?
If you wanted to see the entire applicant pool, then you would see that. No, there would be no discretion. If you wanted to see just the people that we thought that had background issues. If you want to see the people that had felony records and domestic violences and DUIs, we could do that. So you would see everybody.
There's a preferential,
Sure.
there's a nice way to do it from
Yeah.
our point of view, but there's also a way that our current system is specified. And I want to see if there is a way that we can get closer to what you want without changing what is currently an approved system, where somebody says, without discretion, I can come in and apply. You can reject me once I've hit the list for valid reasons, but that takes too long. I just don't want to be accused of shortcutting the system.
Correct.
And saying you didn't get a chance.
And we want everything that we do to be court defensible later if someone gets a wild hair and wants to file a lawsuit or hire a lawyer or something like that. So we absolutely want to have all of our ducks in a row. We just need things kind of streamlined. There's some departments that have entry-level programs that they're just kind of ongoing. Because they're getting so few candidates, they're not getting a competitive pool. So they get 3, and they start processing those 3, and then maybe 6 weeks later they get a couple more. They go to a job fair, they go to the CTC, or they go down to Sinclair or Butler Tech, and they get 3 or 4 more, and they just continue. It is a continuous process. I think if we reworded our ads, that it would be a continuous hiring process for the next 3 months. We could give, there's nothing that says we have to give an exam to everybody at the same day, same time. And we don't do that now, right? They're doing it online from different places. So if we get those 3 people this month, we give them, we start them on the process, give them the competitive exam, they have a passing score, we would go ahead and start processing those people. And then the next month we could do the same thing. I don't think the way it's worded, it needs to be an exact stop, a dead stop kind of date. I think we could also make it 3 months, 6 months, 4 months, and have this continuous process. And at the same time, if we're not getting the applicant pool, then run a lateral program at the same time. But we would always give preferential treatment to those entry-level people during the competitive process.
So I'm gonna, way my brain thinks, which is odd. So it's no different than saying, okay, you gotta be this tall to ride this ride. Weed out those folks first. That's the interview process. Then you still got people coming in, well, then that's the background check. So they're not gonna pass the background check. If they pass both of those, then they're more apt to be accepted, and then he can offer a conditional release, conditional offer, and then then they can do their testing, if I'm tracking all this right. It makes sense that once they get to the testing, we'll still certify and release that list. It's just weeding out the master's degrees with their head banging against the desk.
And this is all just brainstorming out loud. If we have a better idea or someone comes up with a better process, I'm absolutely willing to do it. But we're getting so few, and it's not just us, it's every department. We're getting so few applicants that having a competitive exam that takes a process that takes 4, 5, 6 weeks is just too long now. Even that's short. That's a lot shorter than we used to do it. And it's still just too long because all those people then have other job offers.
I agree with you. However, I still want Martina to look it over for the sheer fact it doesn't go with our rules right now. And I'm not even sure it goes according to ORC. However, we have the opportunity due to home rule. If it's in our rules, we can disregard the ORC. But if it's not in our rules or we change it, we have to go by their rules. So therefore, if we switch this around right now, I don't know what could happen.
I think, I don't think we're in violation or conflict with the ORC if we have an ongoing process. And I don't think we would be in conflict with the ORC if we have a scored, weighted interview process as part of the application process.
But can't the interview be subjective?
Well, because we have a formal set, and there's at least 3 people doing it. Each person then scores that candidate, and they come up with the average of those 3 scores. It is a formalized process with a formal score sheet, written proof.
And who sits on this board?
Usually it's Deputy Chief Neubauer and then somebody in the FTO that's running the FTO program, Field Training Officer program, and then usually someone who's going to be doing the backgrounds, so one of the detectives. They interview them. I have the documents on my desk if you want to look at them with some examples. They interview them. They make notes on the questions, things that are concerning, things that are enlightening, things that positives, negatives, pros, cons, and then they're given a score at the end of the interview, and they're restacked. Whatever list you certify and give to us, those people get restacked after the formal process, the formal interview. Because like we said, the master's degrees they're rocking back and forth don't make the cut. Oh yeah, they got through the test.
And that's, I mean, currently for an NTN testing, the city's spending quite a bit of money to put that test on, correct?
No, the candidate, all the fees, costs are pushed back on the candidate,
Okay.
which might be one of the reasons why they're not taking it. I think it's $45,
It's 55.
$55.
Yeah, and right now the city pays for like membership to NTN. So it handles fire department or, police or, whatever we need as needed.
Okay.
But it's not, like for the cadet, we didn't use.
Right.
Yeah, they're just wanting to weed through candidates faster, so that way they can select the good ones. It's no different than sorting through,
Or move on from the bad ones. Yeah.
pulling the black jelly beans out of the white jelly beans, or the green jelly beans, whatever color you want to be.
And again, this is all just out loud brainstorming, and if it's okay with you, maybe I can get with Martina and she can investigate maybe some of the agencies around us that are doing it differently. Maybe she can talk to their people and figure out how they're doing it and how they're working within their frame of merit service or outside merit service or the ORC, and we can come up with and present maybe a logical solution here in the next few weeks.
Don't get me wrong, I think your idea is great. We're here because we have to make sure the rules are followed.
Sure.
I like the idea of getting the list and weeding out the people who can't pass a background check before they move on. I really think it would give the ones who apply the idea that, they're looking at me instead of, yeah, I'm just another piece of paper shuffled in with the rest of them.
There's a federal agency, this is scary. There's a federal agency that when they go to these job fairs, the candidate writes their name and that's it. And they then find them again and they do a background check, and I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff done before that candidate walks out of the room.
You don't have those resources.
We wouldn't do that anyway, so. But they're making decisions based on, lots of criteria before that candidate walks out of the room, knowing if they'll ever be a, Secret Service or CIA or, that kind of thing, so.
I think that the method in which you're wanting to move to, I think that definitely would expedite some things, but yes, I agree. Martino should look at everything and just kind of get an idea, bounce ideas off of what other agencies are doing what.
I guess the the ultimate goal would be for our recruitment team to be able to walk into a police academy and go, who wants a job, right? All right, well, sign here, show up next Thursday at 5, and we will start the process.
You can't take applications to these job fairs?
I can, but sometimes we could hand out cards with QR codes or something on them, have people do it, but the timing isn't always right. So if we approve the entry level process that starts next week, I could go down and it's 3 weeks of open testing, and then it's a week to get the certification, the list certified, and then it's another week before we can get them in for a board interview. And if we had 10 names, I bet 4, 5, 6 of them would already have job offers and decline. It's exactly what happened the last 2 processes, the last entry level and the last lateral.
This process going on, proposed today, start June 18th. By the time he can get a hold of them, the meeting would be July 11th. That's almost a month of time before we can even show interest on our end. Hey, you got a great, application, we're interested in you, but he can't touch them until then because no list has been certified.
I have a question for you, Chief. Is a substantial portion of the time that we are trying to eliminate, months, weeks, whatever it is a substantial portion of that time between the point where people take a test and the point where the Merit Services Committee sees it and approves the list? Is that a big chunk of the time?
Yeah, so that from the time, the day that they put in an application to the time that we get them through a panel interview, a board interview, that's the biggest chunk of time, and that's where we lose them.
They can take the test, mechanically speaking, I don't mean administratively, but they could take the test online pretty much any time after they filled out the request.
Right.
And we could have access to their scores almost immediately, is that correct?
Once our time is up with NTN, a list is created.
I'm asking if they can go in, fill out their administrative application, et cetera, take the test online. At that point, at 5 p.m. when they're done taking the test, how soon are the score for that individual available?
It's immediate. So Aaron knows immediately.
Okay, so we don't have to, any time between the end of that test and MSC approval of that test score and the forwarding of that applicant to the next phase, that's a big chunk of the time. Perhaps we can do something about that?
We could, if the list would only be maybe one person though, right? You would get a score on a Friday. We'd still have to meet, so you could certify that one person as a list.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that is a good thought. That would probably help streamline everything if the written test was attached to the application process. However, I'm not sure how much time that would save, and you would have to call that one person or 2 persons that week a list, and you would have to meet every week, or you're not allowed to meet virtually, are we? Yeah.
Well, there are possibilities that we could investigate along those lines. If that is a bulk of the time, that isn't process specific, that happens to be our actions or availability, right? So there's a big chunk of time there that's not something that the candidate is specifically responsible for, or the department has decided we didn't want to get together. That's not the case.
Right.
These folks are going, perhaps there is something we can do. I'm not suggesting we can solve the whole problem, but we can certainly think about mitigation strategies.
Yep, I agree.
Well, I'm wondering I don't know if it's ORC or our rule, why do we have to leave our advertisement open for 30 days?
I don't think we do. I think it's just been the practice here, and it gets us some. So back when when everything was in the newspaper,
Yeah.
It gave us a chance to get 2 or 3 Sunday papers where all the kids would look. But now that everything's online, I'm not sure we have to. It's good exposure. A certain length of time is good exposure. Too much exposure, though, then delays things. So that's a good point, but I don't have a better solution than 2 or 3 or 4 weeks.
That's another thing that's in our rules. Advertisement has to be out for 30 days.
I think it's our rules, yeah.
I'm wondering if that could be a rule that could be changed, that let's say, we're advertising, it's open for 15 days or a week. I mean, in most places, when they advertise, the job is filled within a week. Or they have their list of candidates that they want to look at. Wondering if we shorten that takes time off. We're willing to meet when you need us. We've done it before, we're doing it today. But
The process, so the process used to be, right, the list was good for a year, and we used to pull people off for a year, more than a year sometimes. And now the process is good for less than 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So,
what I would like you to do is submit to Martina your goal on application, doing the interview process and the background checks, and then doing an in-house test. Because NTN, you said they really don't give us a list until the closing date.
Correct. Yeah, I don't get a list from them, and a lot of times they just pull because their limit is a year. They've pulled from the past year. So a lot that's on the list are already employees sometimes. So,
Right.
yeah.
That if you could submit to Martina your outline, and if she finds that it's legal, doable, she could write us a rule and we could replace what's in our rules. I like the idea of weeding them out before we take the time to give them a test. That way you're not keeping them on the hook. Also, you may keep some on the hook because they know this is the process and they have an excellent chance.
yes, ma'am, I can do that.
Any disagreements?
No, I mean, I think that it's just to make sure that it's not going against any of the ORCs, which, as you said, I don't think there's anything against the ORC. We're just rearranging the process somewhat, so that way they can, then it in turn puts the burden of, do you really want this job? Then you're gonna go forward and do the testing and everything else. You have conditional acceptance into the Moraine Police Department.
Yeah.
And then you're going through, you start the process. Well, with that, starting that process immediately, that gives them a little bit of hope that they're gonna get the job instead of taking the test and waiting until that test is certified. And then they're going, okay, well, Miami Township or Dayton gave me a conditional offer. I'm gonna go with them.
We would, I guess ultimately, we'd like to get from the time that they complete an application to the time that we can give them a conditional job offer, 2 weeks would be optimal. So if they filled out the application included a written test at the end of it, we can get them in the next week and do their board interview, panel interview, to realize that, they're a quality applicant, not the headbanger. And then get them a conditional offer within that 10, 14, 15-day window. I think that would streamline things. So I'll get with Martina and see if we can figure out how we can achieve that.
Possibly, at the end of the application, like you said, write an essay. Why do you want to be a Moraine police officer? You can find out a lot by how they write, express themselves, a little bit about them. But I don't know if we can add that to an application.
That'd be
Pro-
considered your test. I mean,
So the essay portion is subjective, because who's going to score that? Are you going to knock them for grammar? because something wasn't in APA style when they quoted. There's someone that have to test that. That's just not a yes or no correct answer, true, false. That might be a little more
Right.
difficult. It would give us a great sense of their communication skills, but using that as a scored method may be difficult.
I'm not necessarily saying scored. I'm just saying add that at
Just
the
some
end of the
insight?
application for insight.
Yeah.
And then after they go through the background check, the interview, give them the in-house test. But a lot of times, a little essay gives you an idea on an individual.
Yep, I agree.
So
I would like to make a motion to table this subject until we get further information and feedback from Martina.
I will second it.
Rhoda Haver,
Yes.
Mrs. Kemp,
Yes.
Mr. Kempe,
Yes.
Mrs. Wasty.
Yes.
We were getting ready to go into this portion of it.
Yes, the entry-level police officer advertisement.
Did you guys wait on me? Were you guys waiting on me?
No, we
We
waited.
had
Oh,
to
they
wait
were
on
waiting on
somebody
me.
else.
I was late.
I feel bad. I rushed from the other meeting as soon as I could. I feel bad. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not you. It was somebody else. We won't mention names.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Taking one for the team, sir.
He knew if he was late enough, you would show up.
So the lateral process that we ran, we got 0. I think we had 4 or 5 applicants, and 2 of them no-showed, wouldn't call us back. I think they interviewed 2, and they were just not suitable candidates. So 0. We had a goose egg for that. So we are still in need of at least, I believe it's 3 police officer spots right now. So we're going to request an entry level. Again, some of the academies are just starting now, so now is a good time for the entry level. We can try to hit them, and we'll continue with the past practice, the NTN, and the application processes. I think the ad was Amy had the ad. There were no changes except the dates. We want to keep it open, kind of thing, and
And everything else in the applicator for the advertisement is correct, sir?
I'm remiss, I'm sorry. We want to do entry level with no OPATA required,
Correct.
but bonus points if they have OPATA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, yep, that's it.
Yes, we did change the rule.
I make a motion to accept the advertisement as read.
Seconded?
Mr. Rhoda Haver,
Yes.
Mr. Kempe,
Yes.
Mrs. Wasty.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
I just hope we can get this to where it's a good process, that you're going to get some people, get them on the hook, and they will hopefully come our way.
I have a great team of people that have begun thinking outside the box, trying to get some energy and motivation to get, for the recruitment of some candidates, and we'll see what we can come up with. But thank you. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Apologize for my tardiness.
I had to do the same, Chief. It's okay.
Any other business? Meeting adjourned at 11:49.